Paul, the Democratic ticket is now set in Virginia, and the November elections are coming into focus. In the race for Lieutenant Governor, Democratic State Senator Ghazala Hashmi will face former radio host John Reed. Hashmi says her campaign will focus on helping working families. Reed says he wants to make education the focal point of his campaign.
I intend to focus on the legislative work that I have been doing, the results that we've seen because of the policy efforts that have been made by Democrats in the General Assembly.
She's got to own the responsibility for some of the really divisive and negative policies that have gone through in the Commonwealth of Virginia and are impacting students and families negatively.
Meanwhile, in the race for Attorney General, former Delegate Jay Jones will challenge Republican incumbent Attorney General Jason Miyares. Returning to Capitol Review's Dr. Stephen Farnsworth. He's the director of the Center for Leadership and Media Studies at the University of Mary Washington. Dr. Farnsworth, welcome back.
Glad to be here.
We're glad to have you as always. What's your reaction to the lieutenant governor's race on the Democrat side? State Senator Ghazala Hashmi declared victory in a crowded primary. Was she the top contender? Were you surprised?
Well, absolutely. She was one of the top contenders. You had three candidates very closely matched in terms of the outcome. They were also the top fundraisers. And so when you're thinking about a candidate for a first-time statewide office, you're looking at people who really need to get to know you. And so these three top candidates, as well as the other candidates in the race, really had to deal with a very, very large number of Virginians who didn't know much about them before this process started.
So how do you think the race for lieutenant governor plays out in November? You think it's going to be a tight matchup?
Well, I think the big thing to appreciate is that the most important thing in Virginia right now is actually not the candidates for office, but rather the actions of President Trump. I think Republicans are facing a very significant headwind when you think about all the federal employees who've lost their jobs or worried they're going to lose their jobs or worried that their jobs aren't going to be very pleasant going forward. Add to that the contractors who are also losing jobs. Add to that the people who sell appliances and meals and other people to people worried about the future. They're not going to be spending a lot of money. So when you think about all the downstream impacts of what the Trump administration is doing, that's going to hurt Virginia, particularly Northern Virginia, more than most states.
Let's switch gears to the Attorney General's race. Jay Jones beating Shannon Taylor. Could this be a tough fight between Jones and current Attorney General Jason Miyares? Does the Trump administration's performance have any impact on the race for Attorney General?
Well, actually it does. I think that one of the things to appreciate is that the Virginia Democrats, perhaps unlike national Democrats, are really very motivated. They're very unified, and that created an environment where they can really emphasize the shortcomings, as they see it, of the Republican messaging. The Attorney General has an advantage in that he's an incumbent, but he also has to deal with the fact that he has this record of being a conservative cultural warrior that doesn't necessarily go down well in Virginia. Remember, Trump has lost this state 3 times. The one candidate who did really, really well in a statewide election last time, of course, was Glenn Youngkin, and he won in large part because he was somewhat vague. He didn't have a record in office or in the legislature that convinced people that he was going to be really, really conservative. But unfortunately for the Republican ticket now, all 3 of these people have very, very clear cultural warrior messages. These 3 candidates for statewide office are facing the headwinds from Trump, but also the challenge, I think, of the environment of Virginia, which is really not all that welcoming to cultural conservative messaging in statewide elections these days.
Speaking of statewide election, the race for governor, historic for so many reasons. We have 2 women running for the very first time, Abigail Spanberger and current Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earle-Sears. Your thoughts?
Well, this is going to be a key marquee race. Everyone in the country is looking to New Jersey and to Virginia, the 2 states with governor's races this year, to see what that might be. They often read the tea leaves for the midterm elections to come on the basis of what happens in Virginia and New Jersey the year after a presidential election. So expect a huge amount of money to go into Virginia. Expect a very, very combative race from start to finish with these 2 candidates.
Dr. Stephen Farnsworth, thank you so very much for joining us.
Thank you.